Bit of a malfunction there. Hey everyone, Oli here, and welcome to a review of The Time Meddler, the ninth and final story of the second season and the 17th story overall, starring William Hartnell as the first Doctor. It's 4 episodes long and is written by Dennis Spooner. Now, ideally, this would be the sixth pure historical of Doctor Who, but this is actually the first pseudo-historical Doctor Who story. These are stories that have have a healthy mix of sci-fi and historical elements. Aside from the TARDIS and the time traveling plot, while other sci-fi stuff in historical stories. So, the plot of the Time Meddler is as follows. The TARDIS lands on the Northumbrian coast where new companion Stephen discovers a Viking helmet, and the Doctor deduces they must have arrived in the 11th century. Stephen remains skeptical, especially when he and Vicky encounter what appears to be a Saxon hunter with a modern wristwatch. Investigating a nearby monastery, the Doctor discovers further anachronisms. Who is the mysterious monk observing the time traveler's every move, and why is he so interested in the outcome of the Battle of Hastings? Okay, so, The Time Meddler. Another outstanding story for William Hartnell. A fun fact, The Time Meddler is actually one of the first classic Who DVDs I owned. I got this as a Christmas present when I was 9 years old, so that's why I feel that this story is actually very dear to me. The writing of this story by Dennis Spooner is brilliant. I love how he incorporated humor as well as other dramatic aspects in this story. I think he did it better than he did in The Romans, in my opinion. And I like the game's here changing plot twist about the monk being a Time Lord and actually the first other Time Lord. I'll get back to that later. And Douglas Camfield returns as a director, and I think, as I mentioned before in my review of The Crusades, I think it was, yeah, he's an amazing director, and I loved how he directed this story, and he directs a lot of amazing stories along his tenure in Doctor Who. And the set design of this story is actually quite good. I love the monastery and the whole woodside area of it, and the cliffside where the TARDIS had landed on. The performances in this story was top notch. Peter Buttersworth was a good choice to play the monk, and I love the dynamic between him and Hartnell. They had this sort of odd couple-ish way they had with each other, and especially with Hartnell's comedic skills and with Peter Butterworth's direct comedic skills as well. I think a few years after this story, I think he'll be on the Carry On series with Peggy from EastEnders. Yeah, it was very comedic, and he's pretty much the opposite of the Doctor. I mean, the Doctor is this law-abiding citizen, even though the Doctor is a renegade Time Lord as well, but he obeys the rules, whereas the monk, he's just going crazy and breaking all the rules there is. And I think that's what made this story and work, and what pretty much made the monk's character work. Vicky and Stephen were brilliant as well. They had a good dynamic also, and it's a huge shame that they didn't really have enough stories together. Even other stories, future stories, where Vicky's lost other stories, especially in Galaxy 4 and the Mythmakers, they did interact with each other, but it's not as much as they did interact with each other in this story. Maureen O'Brien and Peter Purves were a good duo, and I think they are probably one of the best underrated and companion duos. Now on to Stephen. This is his first full adventure as a companion, and he explains in the first episode, the first episode of the story, he was trying to escape from the Mechanoid City. He actually did escape, but he was a bit winded. He entered the TARDIS, but he didn't know what it was until he entered and he blacked out, and then that's where he found the Doctor and Vicky. And I loved his subplot in this story. He was very skeptic about the TARDIS and its surroundings and what it could do. He thought the Doctor and Vicky were just playing with him. And I like this character of Stephen. He is the sort of character that takes no nonsense from anyone. So I think that's why I liked his story, with his plot in this story. I mean, he isn't this easily impressed idiot who just is wowed by everything. I'm not mentioning anyone, but I like he's the sort of guy that questions his surroundings, and then he actually finds out the TARDIS is legit later on in the story, and he takes no nonsense from anyone. I mean, He does get into a fight with the Viking hunter, and then he finds the wristwatch, and that was a good aspect of the story, or a good turning point of the story. And his character does actually grow in his time during the TARDIS, as we see in later stories. As for Vicky, she does well here also, and she's definitely trying to find her place in the whole time traveling incident with the Doctor, because she was brought on as an intention to replace Susan, but now that Ian and Barbara have gone back to London 1965, every time I'm going to mention London in this, in the William Hartnell, I'm going to be using 1965, so... And I loved how she's trying to find her place now that Ian and Barbara have gone, and she actually does very well. I mean, she's very different from Susan, as I explained before in the review of the rescue. She's very independent, she's funny, she's brave, yeah. And I love the scene in the start of episode 1 where her and the Doctor are lamenting on Ian and Barbara's departure, and the Doctor was trying to ask her if she wanted to go home as well, and she was like, I want to stay with you, Doctor. I like traveling with you. And they would decide, what would I do? I have nowhere to go. My father's dead. There's nowhere I can go. So I really like that scene, and it really shows some characterization for Vicky. The supporting cast were very good as also. I mean, I remember most of them, because considering the fact that this story is actually one of the... I actually watched the story a lot compared to the other stories, because this is one of the first classic Who series stories I've ever watched when I was younger. So Edith, she's another strong supporting character, even though she doesn't really do much, but I loved her. I love her dynamic with the Doctor, even though it was quite brief, but I loved the way they were interacting with each other in episode 1 and later on in the story. And she doesn't really do much, but she does help. She does with the other Saxons. She does help the Doctor, Ian, and Bob. Sorry, the Doctor, Vicky, and Stephen escape from the monks from the monastery in episode 4, and that was like during the Viking invasion was about to begin. And this is character of Edith. She was the actress. She was one of the main cave women in the Unearthly Child, so that's where I kind of remembered her from. But there was a scene where she was sexually assaulted by the Vikings. They don't show it, but it's heavily implied when Eldred, another one of the Saxons, actually finds her and then assumes that the Doctor, Ian, and Vicky and Stephen must have done something to her, but even though they actually didn't. And that scene was actually quite scary for the 1960s, even though they didn't show it, but it was implied, and the way she was acting, it was quite scary. But this is actually a scene that actually flew over my head when I was a kid. I thought the Vikings must have scared her or something. I don't know, but later on, a few years ago, I actually found out she actually got raped, and that was I actually found quite surprising, because this isn't something that Doctor Who would actually address, especially in the 1960s. This is probably like a taboo subject to address back then. It was very touching and taboo subject to address back in the 60s, but it's kind of common now when we see in our TV shows and our soap operas and stuff like that. But I think Verity Lambert said in the commentary that she put it in there so viewers can understand what actually went on back then, but not address it explicitly so the younger kids won't notice it or be scared by her. So her husband Warnoff is a character I actually liked. I mean, he's a very good character. He's very protective of his wife and his other Saxons. And he actually does kill 2 of the main Viking villains. I've forgotten their names, but in episode 4, but the scene doesn't exist because it was removed by the Nigerian censors when they had the Time Meddler. Because this was once a missing episode 30 odd years ago. But the audio of it does exist, and it's featured in the special features of this DVD right here. The Vikings themselves were very menacing and they were quite scary. We only see 4 of them, but what made them scary was they were quite tall and they were quite menacing, like the Cybermen in the 60s, but they don't come just as yet. But I wish we saw more of them in this story, but considering the fact this is the early parts of the Viking invasion and the Battle of Hastings, so yeah. So I think that's why we don't see a whole lot of them. But we see them on the boats, but that was stock footage of another I think it's especially featured in this DVD, but I'll get to that in a bit. I'll need to watch the special features again. So now more of the monk. We find it in episode 3, the end of episode 3 and the beginning of episode 4, that he is a Time Lord, and he is the first Time Lord to appear in the show other than the Doctor and Susan. This is before the Master, the Rani, or anyone else. He was like one of the first ever Time Lords other than the Doctor to appear, and we find out that he has a TARDIS. But the Time Lords, they don't actually in this story they don't mention the word Time Lords. That the name doesn't actually come up until the War Games. So the Doctor just referred himself, oh, he's one of my people in this story. And I love the twist, and what made this story really work was when Vicky and Stephen were about to enter the TARDIS in episode 3, and Vicky was like, it's a TARDIS! The monk's got a TARDIS! I mean, that was some very good acting by Maureen O'Brien. I think she did that scene very well. And this story actually makes itself that something was off, with especially in the beginning of episode 2 when we see the monk making the Doctor breakfast, frying eggs and making toast for him. But something, or the eggs, he must have used a hob or something, but I really don't know how he did it, because you need I'm not sure if it worked in the 60s, but you need a socket for these sorts of things, but I don't know how he did it. He must have built something, or I don't even know, but that's just something that actually got me. Even the gramophone the Doctor used, I don't know how the monk was able to operate that back then, but yeah. But obviously, this was pretty obvious that this story is set in the 60s. I mean, or was made in the 60s, because there are lots of like things back in the 60s are modern back then, but quite historic to us now. I mean, if this story was like set, I mean, if the monk came from the 21st century, probably see like a TV with Wi-Fi and and stuff like that. But yeah, but that's another aspect I actually liked about this story. It made it say something was off, and we sort of find out who is this, like, are they even in 1066 or somewhere else? Now, this is the first time the Time Lord's non-interference policy was mentioned, but not referenced, but the Doctor kind of alludes to it. So this story actually makes it possible that time can be changed, even though the Doctor said that you cannot change history one bit, but it's very easy to. I mean, if just one line of history is changed, I mean, the whole outlook on history is like changes as well. And it's explained. I mean, it is mentioned, but it's alluded to, but it's not mentioned in full. But the time of non-interference policy, but it is actually mentioned in full in the War Games, and it's actually referenced to a lot in the new series as well. And even though the Doctor does kind of say don't change anything in history, even though the Doctor has actually done some stuff to change history, like accidentally giving Nero the idea to burn room. But it's actually mentioned a lot, especially with the Time Meddlers, the monks meddling. And that's where more of the sci-fi elements are starting to come into play here, aside from the alien spaceships and stuff like that. I think that was quite good. I think this is where Doctor Who is starting to change a bit, even though you don't see another pseudo-historical story up until maybe in the middle of the Daleks' master plan, where the Daleks were in ancient Egypt, but not in full into the evil of the Daleks, and that's the Patrick Troughton story. That's like 2 years after this one. And so I don't really have issues with this story other than that bazooka thing the monk had. It didn't peeve me, but I think what did peeve me about it, I think Dennis Spooner actually forgot about it, and I think the story itself was quite hectic, and he must have forgotten about it. So maybe the Vikings must have. It could have made it possible that the Vikings must have found it, but the novelization of this story fixes an issue. I think the Doctor no, he doesn't destroy it, but he puts it inside the TARDIS, the monk's TARDIS, and where he destroys the interface of the TARDIS dimensional circuits. So he left it in the shrinking TARDIS with the monk. So yeah. So although this is a very outstanding and a very important story to Doctor Who mythos, and I'll give this story another perfect 10 out of 10. Hooray! Woo! So that's it for the second season. Well, my next review will be the first story of season 3, and that's Galaxy 4. And season 3 is where the BBC's junking policy starts affecting Doctor Who. And badly, there was only 3 stories from season 3 actually exist in full, compared to season 2 where out of the 9 stories, 8 stories actually existed in full, and in season 1 only 6 stories actually existed in full. Anyway, in season 6 only 5 stories in season 6 existed in full. Okay, so thank you for watching my review. Stay tuned for my ranking of season 2, where I'll be ranking all the 9 stories from my least favorite to my absolute favorite. So thank you for watching this review. Thank you for watching my reviews up to this point. Galaxy 4 will be available in the new year because I'll be going on holiday at the time I'm making this. I'll be going on holiday in a few weeks, so I won't be uploading any videos or reviews of some sort. So leave a comment and tell me what you thought of the Time Meddler. So this is Oli. I'll see you later.